over. This is bullshitter.
He's coming back from an offside position, but Shane Long was definitely offside. Shane Long has done it!
Who is your favourite Pats player? The fella in the green and white short.
Unless he's breastfeeding, he should be alright.
3 points on the road, a dogged display in Athens and late drama for the under-21s. It's been quite the week for Irish football fans. Hello and you are very welcome to the Ireland Radar podcast. I'm Joseph Murray and I'm joined once again by James French and Dylan Hudson. We've got a lot to dissect this week as we record in the aftermath of a spirited yet ultimately fruitless attempt to make it 2 wins on the bounce as Ireland fell to a 2-0 defeat against Greece. Much like the Finland game, the hosts scored almost immediately after the break through Anastasios Basaketas before Petros Mantalos put the icing on the cake after an unfortunate mistake from Caoimhín Kelleher in stoppage time. Lads, before we get into the nitty-gritty, how are we feeling after that?
Better than the last international window, I think. Look, after the Finland game, it started to get a bit more positive about the side. Look, I was never too confident about a result against Greece in this game, but I think after the Finland game, I was like, it might be nice to come out of an international break without a loss for first time in probably a while. But Greece are a good team. They've been really punching above their weight recently. They were unlucky to not qualify for the Euros. Obviously, they had a close playoff round against Georgia, and of course they beat England last week and have a lot of emotional things driving them on at the moment. But look, I was delighted after the Finland game because it was our first win from behind since 2013, our first away win from behind in 2012. So immediately we saw new things. I think this international break really kind of seen the signs of what Heimer Hallgrimsson's side looks like. I don't think we've seen the full signs. I think the Greece game, we see a very different first and second half, a lot more frustrating the first half and a lot more positives to take from the second half. Or I think what I mean to say, the first international window, I think we learned nothing from the games. And I think even with a loss to Greece today, as I said, wasn't too happy with the first half performance. But even with a loss today, we probably learned more things about the side, and hopefully we can take that into future international breaks.
Yeah, I would say we've been brought back down to earth, but I think like a lot of Irish football fans were probably pretty realistic coming into this game. Like, obviously it was good to get the first win, I think, since 2022 against someone other than Gibraltar. But at the same time, like Greece coming off the back of a huge win in England, like their win in England wasn't a game where they kind of sat back and just hit on the counter, got the odd goal from a couple of chances. Like they had 3 goals disallowed, I think. Their side that's probably just further along in their development than us. And I think that kind of showed tonight. As I said, like a lot of Irish fans knew coming into the game that most likely we probably were going to get bet and maybe hoping for a draw. But a lot of positives in the second half performance, not so much in the first half. Another goal from outside the box. There's definitely more things repeating themselves than changing at the minute, but like the second half performance is a big positive, definitely.
Yeah, like you both mentioned there, lads, there are positives to take away, and I think we have learned quite a bit, especially relative to the first international break. But I think if we look at the Greece game in particular, obviously it's fresh in our minds. That first half was really, really poor. What do you think went wrong, and what do you think changed to correct that then in the second half?
We just paid them far too much respect. We say Greece are a better side than us, but, in a game of football, just because a team is a better side than them doesn't mean you should park on the edge of your box and play that way for the whole game. And of course you can get success playing that way, but if you play like the way that Ireland did tonight, where it was you park it yourself at the edge of the box, your midfield is not giving the defenders any options to pass out and break away, and then you've got no outball. You've got Ogbene, who is probably one of the most unpredictable players in the Premier League just due to his pace. Well, he suddenly becomes a very predictable player if you're going to just put the ball over the top and just aim for him. Ireland really didn't give themselves any chance in the first half to do much. It was definitely a good scoreline to go in at half time, but that was, more down to the brilliance of Caoimhín Kelleher. I thought there was some good one-on-one defending, but in general, I thought the defence was a bit frantic and didn't help us with keeping possession because everything was just a bit, trying to get the ball out as quick as we could. And that way we didn't keep possession. I think we made less than 100 passes to Greece, had 200 and something in the first half. And obviously we don't want to hark back to the Kenny days when we were just talking about passes, but you can play defensive football, but you invite too much pressure. And it's not really a surprise that Greece scored so early into the second half. They deserved to be maybe 2 or 3 up, I thought, in the first half. And we were lucky to go in at 0-0. And at least we saw changes in the second half, and fair play to Heimer in the end for making those changes, because I know I've watched Ireland teams before who would have a disastrous first half like that, go behind and not change anything. But to be honest, I was very, very surprised when I checked social media at halftime and seen quite a lot of positivity from Ireland fans, because to be honest, I didn't see much in that first half to be positive about. And luckily it did change in the second half, despite the scoreline not really changing in our favour.
Yeah, I think the only really positive about the first half was that we went in level, like, you know what I mean? And I think Greece are always going to start the game really well, like obviously kind of riding on a lot of emotion and with the situation there. And I think the atmosphere as well, like the atmosphere of the whole game was brilliant. Full house tonight, and I think that's kind of not really a common occurrence for Greek national team games. So like it was always going to be tough, kind of first 20 minutes. I was kind of waiting for us to ride that wave of Greek pressure, but then kind of come into the game ourselves, and that kind of never really came in the first half, which was the really disappointing part. Like just kind of struggling to play out from the press and kind of refusing to at times. And it's obviously kind of a reoccurring theme, like with watching Irish football over the last couple of years, in particular the national team, is just refusing to kind of try and play out from the back and just trying to play through the press. Like when these players can do it, like they showed at the start of the second half that we can be aggressive in our passing and actually break the press when we want to, like, and be ambitious. But we just didn't do that in the first half. Like we kind of seemed to need to go a goal down to really show that ambition, which is probably the most worrying thing I kind of see from Heimer's start so far. Like he doesn't seem to be many solutions to kind of our problems in build up, which is probably our kind of biggest flaw at the minute, is building up from the back and bringing that forward obviously into the attack. Like that's probably our main flaw. Like when we do get into the attack, we do have obviously good cross of the ball. You've got Ferguson in there. Like we can't score goals. Like it's just kind of about breaking through the press and building out from the back. And they're kind of two things that we just didn't do in the first half, refused to do. I know the atmosphere was obviously intimidating. Greece obviously playing really, really well, coming in on a high after England, but like we just didn't get into the game at all in the first half. And you can't just keep not starting games well. And we were lucky not to be a goal down, but on another day it could have been 2 goals down, really, if you're being honest. So I just think going forward, we just need to start games a lot better, like, because like on another day we could have been 1 or 2 down at half time.
I think Cullen and Knight were particularly poor, and I don't think the defenders are free from blame for why we kept such little of the ball and just kept giving it back to Greece in dangerous areas. But if Cullen just dropped between his centre halves and gave them a passing option in the first half, suddenly things become a lot easier. There's so many times in that game or in that first half where Dara O'Shea or Collins got the ball and Greece are kind of, their pressing was very good, but that they'd let the defenders have the ball. The defenders take a few seconds, realise there's no pass, and then just lump it over the top, and the ball goes back to Flakadimos in the Greek goal. Like it was a really poor display in breaking a press, but not only that, but the midfield they look scared to get the ball, and obviously we did see that change in the second half. I thought Cullen was much improved in the second half, just in just giving the defenders an option to pass to. But as I said, the defenders weren't free from blame. When I said a few minutes ago that they defended well, they made tackles well, but everything looked a bit aggressive, a bit nervy, and I think with that it just kind of added pressure on them. And I think it's something about the Ireland defenders that I think it on paper should be the strongest point of the team, and you've seen some of it today. I thought Liam Scales had a good second half as well, but I don't know why they look so nervous at the back, whether it be on the ball or is every tackle is that stitch. I was writing an article after the Finland game that I just didn't get time to get finished, but these should be the best players in our team. Collins is our captain. Like Dara O'Shea is playing consistent minutes for Ipswich, and Liam Scales is playing quite consistently for Celtic. I mean, they should have the experience to be able to get out of this mess that knows that Greece were doing, and they just weren't able to do it.
Yeah, I think like in particular the midfield was just really disappointing. Like Josh Cullen and Jason Knight, both players who playing for Burnley and Bristol, but Burnley and Bristol both build from the back. They both would drop in to help building out from the back. Like I just don't really understand why. Well, in particular Knight, like I was kind of watching him in the first half, he just wasn't really given an option when we were kind of trying to build from the back. And if your midfield players, we obviously had 2 centre mids in the first half. If your midfield players aren't coming short in build up, you're going to struggle. That, it's kind of pretty basic. I was just really disappointed with Knight, especially just because of, in my opinion, he's probably one of our best footballers in midfield. He is a good technical player. He isn't a player who it's just grit and determination. He actually has a good degree of technical ability. So that'd be kind of my biggest kind of disappointment from that first half. Just the midfield was just really, really poor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one, and I listened to Hamer's comments post-match as well, and his overriding opinion on it was very much like a belief thing. So it wasn't until the first goal went in for Greece and then the pressure was kind of off and then the shackles were released a little bit and we were able to play. And you did kind of see that momentum shift then post 48th minute, where from my perspective anyway, we were more or less all over Greece for large spells of the second half. And obviously the second goal came in not ideal, but I felt like it didn't really reflect the overall second half performance, to be honest. And obviously there was changes made and stuff like that, which did also help change the tide of the game. And I think Jack Taylor coming into midfield as well really helped. But it's an interesting question. And do you think, as much as anything, it is kind of a mentality thing that when the shackles are off, the pressure's off, we are a goal down and we kind of have to play, but until that point we're just maybe lacking that bit of confidence to go and attack teams?
It is really strange, to be honest, especially Greece just look so comfortable. I think there probably is a lack of respect they have for us. Just over the last year, they beat us 2-0, I think, on 4 occasions. They're pretty comfortable in what they're doing against us. And they're kind of nutmegging players. They're showing loads of creativity in the attacking third. And we just look so nervous. It's ridiculous how nervous we are. It's not even just at the start of games. It's looks for the whole match. We just look really nervous, and not that we're playing within ourselves, but we just look like we have the shackles on us. Do you know what I mean? We just don't look really comfortable in what we're doing. And I would say that maybe it is a belief thing with Heimer, but this is probably something we've seen from Ireland teams for a couple of years. And I hope that it can change under Heimer, because I think he has pointed it out, and maybe Stephen Kenny didn't really point it out a lot when he was in charge, but he did point out that there seems to be a belief problem and we don't seem to start playing until we go a goal down. So hopefully as Heimer gets more time with the players, they'll start to believe in what he's doing more, and the shackles will start to come off. Because you see when the shackles are off, we can play good football. We do have good players. Sammy Smoddox, when the shackles were off for Blackburn last year, was unplayable. He was unbelievable. In an Ireland shirt, yes, I get it's at a much higher level and he's playing on the left wing, but in an Ireland shirt, he just seems to have seems to look like he's a lot more pressure on his shoulders. And I know it's international football, but just Greece just didn't really seem to have that kind of weight of expectation on them. And this was a big game for Greece in the context of the group. If you're kind of looking at it as a neutral, realistically, we probably third place is where we're going to finish after that result against Finland, barring disaster in our last 2 games. Greece were coming into this game. If they beat us, they have a serious chance of going up to League A, after beating England. This was a big game for them, and there definitely was expectation on them. They're probably favourites coming to this, but they didn't play with any of that on them. They just looked assured in what they're doing. They have a new manager as well. Like us, it's not like they're kind of coming into this with a manager who's been there for a number of years, like Finland. They have a settled side, but they have a new manager as well, and they had the weight of expectation coming into this game. So it is a strange one, and I think maybe it is a mental thing, and maybe hopefully it's something that will kind of disappear as time goes on and kind of Heimer builds that belief within the squad.
Yeah, I do absolutely think that there is a mental part of it. I think there's a number of players you can look at and say maybe that the green shirt has been a bit heavy on them, especially you see, maybe I alluded to a few minutes ago that the centre halves haven't been performing as of late for the national team as some of them might do for club level. For example, Collins is 22, 23, and he's built up 65 million euros of transfer fees already in his career, but hasn't been, despite being captaincy, hasn't been exceptional for the national team, But at the same time, when I say that, I think there's a bit of both to it. I think again, we just started the game too slow, and I think we're coming into the game and we're feeling too sorry for ourselves, which probably goes into the mental thing. but we're played too much like we're massive minnows. And I know we aren't a better team than Greece, but it's not like it was a team that's 100 places below Greece on the national rankings, you know. Like if when we played Greece at home, it wouldn't have been outlandish to say that we got a result, but the feeling around the national team now feels like we have to go to Greece and park the buses, which is what we did in the first half, and which is what I disagreed with. I think we need to get it out of our heads, and again, the mentality thing that we can't go to teams and play with results. You know, there's no reason this team can't start beating teams that are better than them, and even Greece, as I say, better, but they're not that much better. It's not like when we played England and it's full of, you know, Champions League and top level Premier League players. But to start beating these teams, we need to be hard to beat ourselves, and that is just so far from what Ireland are at the moment. You know, how many times have we seen a shot conceded outside the box? You know, we've all seen it at the start of the first or second halves, and with that, we've got players like Ogbene who should, you know, be hard to play against anyone, especially with his counter-attacking pace, but we're completely neutralise him. Sami Smojic, quality player, but I think he's wasted on the left wing. There's so many things that we need to do to make ourselves harder to beat, and you know, before we can start to be harder to beat, I think we do have to get the mentality right. And there is a lot of players that just maybe feel sorry for themselves in an Irish shirt at the moment, and hopefully Heimer can change that. And you know, it's going to take a lot more than 2 camps to do that, especially with the time that he was given on the first one, which maybe you consider 1.5 camps. And yeah, it's kind of interesting to see where we go from here. Maybe, and hopefully he learned more about his team in that second half. It seemed like we played a completely different style of football, and I think Jack Taylor especially was impressive, and I expect him to come into the team after this.
I think Festi Ebisele is probably like a really good example of someone like that doesn't look really confident, like coming into the game after like a huge game-changing performance like against Finland, and one of his first really kind of top performances in Ireland shirt. Like he should have been coming into the game tonight with huge confidence, like ready to come on and make a huge impact, and he looked indecisive, like and just kind of didn't affect the game. I don't want to single him out, like, but he just resembled what a lot of that Irish team looked, which is just kind of indecisive and just not confident, like. And I hope it's something that Heimer can change, and he can really build belief. Like Dylan said, he hasn't had a lot of time with the players, and hopefully he can build that belief, and like the shackles just do start to come off, like, because we just looked like we really lacked belief and confidence out there, and that was kind of worrying, especially in the first half.
Look, yeah, we won't spend too much time in the dumps, because overall I think, you know, we did come away with an away win in the overall international break, but it is an interesting one. And I think a lot of the consensus that we've received on social media as well, when we've asked for listener feedback, is that the midfield in particular was just where things really did fall flat. And you could also make an argument, I think a couple of people said that Darragh O'Shea starting at right back as well isn't exactly what you'd be looking for in terms of Ogbene ahead of him, looking out for that little bit of support as well ahead of him. So is there an issue then when you put it into the context that the lads that did come on, like say Mikey Johnson, who had a bit of an impact, Jack Taylor, obviously probably the standout player in the second half for the minutes he was on, you know, those types of players who were coming on and making an impact, is there an argument to be made that the team selection tonight wasn't right?
I don't know. Considering we're off the back of, you know, that first away win in a few years and first win from behind, it's hard to say that the selection was wrong. And again, he's still learning the team. You brought up about Ogbene and O'Shea. I thought that the pair of them were in a completely different wavelength tonight. Like they just didn't seem to know when one needs to underlap and one needs to overlap, especially in defence. I think it was brought up in commentary at one stage as well. The outball that they had to the wing, that Greece had, meant they could just completely bypass whatever, to be fair, little resistance that we had in midfield for the whole game. Because that ball was on, you know, when O'Shea was tucking in to maybe help the defence and kind of start to form a back three more. So Ogbene was also tucking into midfield and wasn't covering the wide space. So I think there seemed to be a lack of knowledge what the pair were doing there. Said that Ebisele didn't do too much better when he came on, but you know, we'll give him a bit of grace after the Finland game. And Mikey Johnson, I'm surprised he wasn't used more. Look, I think Smojic as well is one of our better players, but I'm not exactly sold on him as a left winger. I think he should be moved into more central space. I was kind of surprised that he wasn't put into more of an attacking midfield position today when Finn Azaz was left out of the squad. But to be fair, I thought Parrott was one of our better performers more so. So I think that's fair enough. But yeah, I think he's experimenting with the squad. Even Taylor coming on, like I thought Taylor was coming on just to shore the midfield, but he was more of an attacking threat by the end of the game, which, you know, that wasn't something I'd be more familiar with Taylor being a more defensive minded midfielder, and I think he gave it a good go. Look, I think he's still finding out his team. There's so many players that are on the same level, so it's kind of hard to say this lineup is the right one, because I think all the players are kind of on their day, they're better than the others, but they're on paper no better than the man that's probably on the bench behind them.
Yeah, I think I probably would disagree on Parra. I thought he kind of didn't have the impact on the game he maybe would have wanted, but like in saying that, like how many times has Troy Parrott played in a two up top with Evan Ferguson at international level? Like, I don't know myself, but I'm guessing it's been pretty rare, like, or maybe that was the first time tonight. Like, you have to give Heimer some leeway with his team selections, like in particular with going with Parrott over Azaz. He talked about before the game that he felt be more of a counter-attacking threat tonight, in that Greece are going to play a high line, be spaced in behind for kind of Parrott and Ferguson to both get in there behind them, and it obviously didn't really materialise. But like you do have to give him leeway, and maybe Azaz was the better option to start. Like, but like he has to. These are the games he has to tinker with the squad, and the squad has to kind of become familiar with kind of who they're playing with, especially with O'Shea and Ogbene. Like, it'd be my opinion that probably is the best kind of option on the right side going forward. Maybe when Coleman's back, not, but just considering the athleticism O'Shea offers, Ogbene's threat on the right wing, it kind of allows us a bit more kind of flexibility to move into the three at the back as well. I don't think it really worked well tonight, but then again, this is probably Darragh O'Shea's first game at right back playing for Ireland, like, you know what I mean? So you do have to give the players some leeway with that, but yeah, I think Troy Parrott in particular probably didn't have the effect on the game he wanted. I think Ray Houghton said in the first half in particular that Parrott and Ferguson were kind of trying to go in behind it maybe too often. I'd say that was emphasised to them like by the staff before the game, but like they needed to come short a lot more often than they did in that first half. In particular, probably Parrott, it was kind of the one playing a bit deeper than Ferguson. He kind of didn't show for the ball enough, probably coming deep to show for the ball in that first half. So listen, he's still getting to know the squad. He's tinkering with things. He's trying to find his best 11, and having the ability to kind of have Parrott and Ferguson in a front two up top. It is really exciting on paper. It didn't quite work tonight. Neither of the two players would be used to playing it in a front two. Like, it's not many teams in world football play two up top like anymore. So like that's just gonna have to be something that they kind of eventually kind of get used to doing. But like the team selection, I don't think you can blame Heimer too much on, and I don't think that was the reason for that first half performance.
I don't think the game was lost on team selection. I think some players did better when they came on, and fair play to the ones that gave it an effort. But I don't think, you'd have to go back to when the lineups were announced at the start of the game. I don't think any of us were giving out that X player was starting or X player wasn't starting. I think we were all fairly comfortable. And we talked a bit before the game about the lineup, but I think we were all fairly comfortable with it. And sometimes players just don't have the best games. What I would bring up, do you think the Ferguson chance in the first 10 minutes, do you think there was a genuine cause for a penalty there? I was a bit conflicted on that one myself. I don't know, I didn't really know what to make of it.
For what it's worth, I think it was a pretty much nailed on penalty, to be honest. I mean, from my perspective anyways, he was shaping up to shoot before he even got a shot off. His leg was completely, I would say, taken out from underneath him, and I can't really see any argument against that. But obviously there is an element of green tinted glasses on there, so maybe some will disagree.
I kind of thought at first glance as well that it was maybe just a follow through of the defender that kind of caused Ferguson to fall like that. But like on second glance, it does kind of look like a pretty blatant contact. Like he did get blatant contact on Ferguson for him to go down. Like, I think just Ferguson didn't really sell the challenge, which is something kind of Irish players are guilty of, where like we're probably too honest at times. Like, we don't go looking for fouls and stuff or looking for penalties, and there was very little protest from Irish players as well. But like there definitely was blatant context. So like I think in all, like if Ferguson does sell the challenge, it probably is given as a penalty, or at least it's goes to VAR. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'd agree on that. But to be honest, at the end of the day, we didn't play well enough in that first half to deserve anything out of it. So I don't think I was too egregious with it after the first half ended.
Yeah, it is funny though, because it does take place so early in the first half that if that goal goes in, it probably changes the entire narrative.
That's probably part of it. That's probably part of it too, though, because it was so early. Like, it was one of our first attacks of the game, if not our first attack of the game. And maybe if it happened at like a later point in the game. Look, I didn't think the referee was great in general, but I don't think he made too many decisions that were like game deciding. I thought he was a bit soft in general and making decisions. But yeah, maybe if it happens, in a 60th minute rather than within the first 10 minutes, maybe it's a different decision. But look, to be honest, I don't think it would have decided the game, just given how poorly we did play in that first half.
Yeah, absolutely. If we rein it back a bit and kind of look forward now into the future, it's essentially Hamer's first proper international break. Do you think he has a fair idea now of what his strongest starting 11 looks like? Obviously, there have been a few injury absences and stuff like that, but if you factor everything in, the time he's had in training with his squad, what he's seen out on the pitch as well, do you reckon he knows going into the next round in November what he's going to be putting out? Obviously, injuries aside. I
think the majority of the team that start tonight, like, I'm not going to say nail down starters, but they're definitely Heimer settled 11 in my opinion. Like, if you look at a lot of them starting at their clubs, barring any crazy situations kind of from happening at any other club situations, like, hopefully that'll continue and they'll obviously be in next month's squad, barring any injury or anything like that. But like, the majority of that team that started tonight probably is Heimer settled 11 now. Kind of, I'd say maybe the attack is maybe the one spot that is kind of still kind of up for grabs, like, regards to, does he play Parrott with Ferguson, or does he play Zaz, or even maybe does Jamie McGrath come into that if he continues his form at Aberdeen. Like, I'd say the likes of Cullen and Knight in midfield, even though they were so poor in that first half, whoever you're going to bring in is a very similar level to them. Or to be fair, Jack Taylor, I haven't touched on him. He is definitely someone that could come in. So he's probably the one change in midfield that could happen. But like, the wing backs, Ebisele for Ogbene maybe, but Ogbene is obviously playing at a higher level. Brady was okay tonight, and we have very few options at left wing back. Like, so I think at the end of this international break, Heimer definitely has more of an idea of a settled 11. He's seen the players kind of in the flesh, like playing for Ireland, not on Y-Scout or watching them for club level. Like, he'll have a general idea of what a settled 11 is, and that can only really help the cohesion and kind of the belief going into next month.
Yeah, I mean, naturally he's 4 games in now, so I think he's definitely got a more settled 11. I think the fact that he's gone for and only made one change in between the Finland game and this Greece game, even though it looked like there was a couple of players maybe could have missed out through injury, but luckily enough they were fit for today. Yeah, it looks like today's lineup is the majority of the settled 11. Look, I think with Irish players, there's so much chopping and changing about who's getting minutes for their club. So I think when we come around to the next break, it is probably going to depend on that, as we constantly allude to, or at least I certainly do. I think there's not a lot of gap between the players that are starting and players on the bench. Like, you could easily have a Johnson in for a Smoljic, you can easily have an Ida in for a Parrish, and like, quality wise, not much changes. So I think, look, it's really going to be up to the players at club level to stake their place in the team going forward for the next international breaks. I'm kind of surprised Zaz didn't start today, given how much Heimer talked about him after the Finland game. Now, I didn't think he was standout against Finland or anything, but he seems to have the quality that Heimer likes, or it definitely occurred to him after his press conference. So he's definitely got an interesting role to play in the team, and I'm surprised he didn't play today. But to be honest, I don't think it would have changed much if he did or didn't.
Yeah, bang on. I think it's ultimately a negative result, but there are certainly shoots of life and signs of maybe good things to come, given the last, I would say, 40 minutes of the game anyways. Lads, surely you've seen something to be happy about in that last 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. Like, not to be the grumpy one in the corner, but I definitely do think so, that there was a lot more. I think changing up after we were so poor in the first half is always a big positive, as long as you're able to to make a positive impact or to change our game. And we did come close to scoring a few times. If you looked at the game as the second half, we were probably the better team. Of course, we all know that's not how a 90-minute game of football works. But again, he's only had 4 games in charge. The first 2 games in charge, we're going to constantly debate how much control he really did have in his England and Greece games. And we are looking more like, as we were explaining with the players, we're looking more and more like a settled side, especially after the Finland game, where we've seen the ability that we can push on. We've watched Kenny for the last 2 years, and if we're a goal down, we just never look like scoring. At least today, after we were 1-0 down, I think we look like scoring, and obviously we proved that against Finland when we came back from 1-0 to win the game 2-1. There's definitely positives to take. I think the next camp is going to be hard. I would expect us to beat Finland at home, but look, we'll have to see. I'm definitely a lot more positive about Heimer's reign than I was coming into this camp. You're always going to get that with a win, but it does feel like there is some sort of style of play there. There's some sort of idea. He's starting to see which players he likes and which players he doesn't like so much. And even some of the ways he's talked in the media, he seems like someone I can get behind. So just in general, this camp, and even after that second half, has made me feel stronger about the manager. So to say that coming out of that would mean that I don't think I could say that there was no positives. I think there was stuff to take from both the Finland game and the second half in that. Yeah,
I think in particular, what Dylan touched on, like kind of some of the games in kind of the end of Kenny's reign, we would concede first, and you could just feel in like the Aviva, like just the hope just go out of all the fans, like that there was no real hope that we were going to come back into the game, and we never showed anything to prove them otherwise, like, you know what I mean? But there was a genuine like response, there was a sustained response from us, which was like a really positive thing. If you want to look at positives, like you're going away in a really hostile environment where we got it really kind of put under pressure in that first half. We come back into it for a sustained period. Like that's a big positive, like, and probably something that I wouldn't have seen at the end of Kenny's reign or even last month. Like there never seemed to be any response to going a goal behind. That's always a big plus when we do see a response and like a sustained over like a genuine period of the game, not just the last 20 minutes where we were kind of just bombing forward and everyone can say, oh, we gave it a really good try. Like it was, we generally came back into the game out of our own accord, like, and put Greece under pressure for 40 minutes of that game, it is a positive. Like,
I think we've shown we have options off the bench as well, which is something for a long time we didn't always have. You know, I thought everyone that came on today, or for the most part, made a positive impact, because I thought Malumbi added a lot more to the midfield. I think he was definitely better than Knight. We obviously talk about Taylor. I think he was one of Ireland's best performers, even though he only played the second half. I think he was brilliant. You know, I think he was everywhere. I think he added so much in the attack, and I think he added so much going backwards as well. And then I think Johnson just added something else. So the knowledge that we have players that we can bring on off the bench. Of course, Festi wasn't great coming off the bench, but we could see what he can do off the bench when he came on against Finland. So, you know, with the knowledge that, you know, maybe we can change the games from the substitutes position, maybe something that's to take as well going into the next few games.
Safe to say there is plenty of food for thought ahead of the next international break in November. But if we move back on to something that could definitely be interpreted as a negative, the Ireland under-21s suffered a heartbreak in Turner's Cross against Norway. Obviously, Ireland took the lead through Sean Rowan in the 75th minute, and that looked to be that. But then Norway, with essentially what was the last kick of the game, equalised at the very end through Andreas Schelderup. And from our perspective anyways, and again, I don't even think this is really a case of green tinted glasses. There clearly was a foul on Anselmo Garcia McNulty in the build-up. So, James, what did you make of it all?
Yeah, a draw, but in the context of the group, kind of feels like a defeat, especially with the nature of Norway's equaliser. A blatant kind of pull of the jersey. I was shocked that it wasn't given in real time. I was shocked like how we weren't given a free out. We didn't deal with the kind of goal after that, but like it was a blatant foul, like, and we should have got a free out. But kind of going forward now, obviously Italy on Tuesday, kind of do or die really. I think we've to go to Italy and win. Norway are hosting Turkey. They have to go and beat them, and then hope that we don't go to Rome and get 3 points, which is obviously not that likely. But yeah, it's still doable for Jim Crawford's side, but kind of after the Norway results, it is kind of a kick in the teeth. There definitely is a chance Turkey can go to Norway and not lose. Turkey are quite good at this level. Like, I know we beat them home and away, but like both games were really, really close. And Turkey definitely, obviously, with their senior team and stuff, like they have a lot of talent. So like it is very possible that they go to Norway and not lose, like, which is all we need them to do. So it's still possible that we get that playoff, but it could have been wrapped up in like the last two games have cost us like really, really dearly. So yeah, it's disappointing, but there's like still a glimmer of hope, like, and hopefully they can go to Italy and provide a shock. Like, I know we obviously we've history with kind of doing it against Italy in recent times with Robbie Brady's goal and Lille, but listen, hopefully they can kind of pull the cat out of the bag and either that or Turkey go to Norway and not lose, which is possible. Like, so the chances are still there, which is the main thing. A couple of probably uncontrollable factors as well, like injuries and suspensions, like Boston Noel, Sinclair Armstrong, Joe Hodge, literally like their three best players, the core of the team they've all three have been really, really good in the campaign. Like they were all missing for the Norway game. Missing them three players in the biggest game of the campaign is really, really unfortunate. I do think the performance was under par, but like if you have them three players playing, I think they would have made a huge difference. Like in particular, Joe Hodge, like everything kind of that 21s team does midfield wise and kind of building from the back, it does go through Joe Hodge. Like he's a brilliant ball player and he's a really good technical player. So like missing him was a huge loss on Friday night.
It must be hard for Garcia McNulty off the back of that. Like obviously it wasn't his fault. I think everyone who watched the game, myself included, could see that there was a foul there, and for someone who's had such an impressive campaign for the Ireland under-21s in this qualifying to be at the heart of something that he couldn't really control, but could cause the 21s a qualifying space is harsh for a player that's been so impressive, and maybe someone that's knocking on the door will be in the future for a senior call up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's hoping that they do see it over the line when they do take on Italy. But for now, that is it for this time out. We come away from this round of games with plenty of food for thought ahead of the next international break in November. Next time out, we'll obviously know more about whether the under-21s will have qualified for the European Championships. We'll also have roundups of all the key Irish involvements across the club football scene. And of course, we'll be returning to the mental League of Ireland Premier Division title race. But until then, if you haven't, make sure to subscribe to the Ireland Radar podcast and drop us a review wherever you do listen to us. And make sure to reach out to us on social media with your thoughts, as our DMs are always open. And finally, we're going to play you out with a short clip of music from an Irish artist. And this week's artist is Sprints with their new single, Feast. Thank you again for listening, and we will catch you very soon.
She's a bad stroke of luck, yeah, they hit her with the book. She's got a face for every place, you'll never know how she looks. And if heaven was a hero, then she'd go on and sing it. Drink the poison from the wine without a breath, go on and sink it. She's got to seek for peace when she's down on her knees, and she's praying to a God in which she don't think she believes. But the nectar is sweet, pass the blessing on to me, running